My entitled cousin thought he could scream in my face, humiliate a crying teenager, and steal my inheritance, all because he was the manager and I was just a lowly server. He truly believed he was untouchable. He stood there, smug grin plastered on his face, holding my termination papers like a trophy. He told me, "Get out of my restaurant. You're cut from the will, and you're cut from the payroll." But he didn't know two things. One, I was wearing a wire, and two, the family trust he thought he was inheriting. I had been appointed the sole executor 3 days prior. I watched the blood drain from his face when the family lawyer walked in. He thought he won the war, but he didn't know I had the nuclear codes. Watch how he instantly regret crossing me when he realized his net worth was about to hit 0. Hit that subscribe button if you love seeing entitled people get instant karma. And comment down below, what would you do if you caught someone secretly filming you at the gym? Let's get into the story. Let's rewind to understand the sheer level of karma that hit this man. You have to understand the dynamic. My grandfather started a high-end restaurant chain 40 years ago. It's a gold mine. When he got sick, the vultures started circling. The biggest vulture was my cousin, Brad. Brad is the definition of a golden child. He never worked a hard day in his life, failed out of business school, yet somehow convinced our grandfather to make him the general manager of the flagship location. Brad is delusional. He walks around in $3,000 suits, barking orders at chefs who have been cooking longer than he's been alive. Me, I'm the opposite. Grandfather raised me to earn my keep. Even though I have a law degree and handle the family's estate planning, Grandfather asked me to work undercover as a server at the flagship location for 6 months. He wanted me to see how Brad was really running the business before the inheritance was finalized. So I put on the apron, I took the orders, I scrubbed the floors. For the first 2 weeks, I kept my head down. I heard the rumors, though the kitchen staff terrified of Brad, the servers crying in the walk-in fridge, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not one to gossip. I've worked retail. I know people complain. I told myself, maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he's actually a good leader under pressure. I was wrong. My first direct interaction with Brad was a red flag the size of Texas. I was swamped 6 tables, running food, sweating through my shirt. Brad was standing at the pass, eating a steak meant for a customer. He looked at me, chewed with his mouth open, and pointed at a stack of dirty cups. "Hey, you organized the dish pit. The dishwasher isn't here yet." I paused, balancing 3 hot plates on my arm. "Brad, I've got food dying in the window and table 4 is waiting on drinks. I'll get to it in 5 minutes. He didn't like that. His eyes narrowed. "I didn't ask you what you were doing. I told you to stack the cups. Do it, now." I swallowed my pride. My internal monologue was screaming, "I own a stake in this building, you moron," but I forced a smile. "Yes, chef." I put the food down, went to the back, and stacked his precious cups. I did it because I'm a professional, but that moment set the tone. Brad realized he could bully me, and he loved it. He started targeting me, nitpicking my uniform, claiming my tables were complaining when they weren't. He was trying to break me. He didn't know he was just building the evidence file for his own funeral. The tension simmered for months. The restaurant was bleeding staff. We lost a shift leader, 2 line cooks, and our best bartender in a single week. Why? Because Brad was a tyrant, and it was December, the busiest time of the year. The restaurant was fully booked for holiday parties. We were understaffed, overworked, and running on caffeine and hatred. I was practically doing the job of 3 people serving, bar backing, and expediting food. Then, we hired Mia. Mia was 18, fresh out of high school, working to pay for community college. She was sweet, a bit slow, but eager to learn. She reminded me of myself at that age. She wasn't the golden child. She was just a kid trying to survive. Brad hated her. He called her slow. He mocked her voice. He'd make her carry the heaviest tubs of ice just to watch her struggle. The incident that ended everything happened on December 26th, the post-Christmas rush. I was at the POS system ringing in an order when I heard a crash from the kitchen that sounded like a bomb going off. The entire dining room went silent. I ran to the kitchen. There was a shattered tub of porcelain dishes on the floor, thousands of dollars in inventory, destroyed. Mia was standing there, trembling, her hands shaking so hard she couldn't breathe. Brad was looming over her. His face was purple. Veins were bulging out of his neck. He wasn't just yelling, he was screaming primal, abusive filth. "You stupid little girl, look what you did." Mia was sobbing. I reached for the bottom plate and the stack slipped. "I'm so sorry, Brad, I'll pay for it." "You can't afford to pay for this," Brad roared, kicking a shard of pottery across the floor. It skittered past my foot. "You are worthless. You are a waste of space. Get out of my kitchen. You're fired. Get out before I make you regret being born." My heart hammered against my ribs. It wasn't fear. It was pure, unadulterated rage. I felt the heat rising up my neck. This entitled monster was abusing a child over plates that he had stacked incorrectly in the first place, a safety violation I had noted in my logbook days ago. Mia ran past me, tears streaming down her face, hyperventilating. That was it. The line wasn't just crossed, it was obliterated. I stepped over the broken dishes and stood between Brad and the exit. "That's enough, Brad," I said. My voice was low, but it was deadly steady. He whipped around, eyes wild. "Excuse me, who do you think you're talking to? You're a server. I'm the manager. I'm the future owner of this company." "You're a bully," I said. Pulling my phone out of my apron, I hit Save Farfa on the voice memo app I'd been running since the yelling started. "And you just created a massive liability for this company." He laughed, a cruel, delusional laugh. "Oh, you're recording me cute. You think grandfather cares I'm the blood heir? I'm the golden child. You're nothing. In fact," he stepped closer, invading my personal space. "You're fired too. Both of you, get out." "No," I didn't move. I looked him dead in the eye. "I'm not going anywhere, Brad, but you might want to call your lawyer. You're gonna need one." The next morning, the atmosphere in the restaurant was funeral quiet. Brad was strutting around the dining room, rearranging tables, acting like he had just cleansed the kingdom of traitors. He had no idea the storm that was gathering 5 miles away at the corporate office. I wasn't at the restaurant. I was sitting in a mahogany-paneled boardroom with our family's high-powered attorney, Mr. Henderson, and my grandfather. Grandfather looked frail, but his eyes were sharp. "Play it again," he whispered. I pressed play on my phone. Brad's voice filled the room, high definition and terrifying. "You are worthless. You are a waste of space. Get out before I make you regret being born." And then I played the second recording one I had captured weeks prior, where Brad was bragging to a bartender about skimming cash from the safe to pay for his gambling debts. A little detail I found while auditing the books at night: Mr. Henderson, who charges $800 an hour and wears suits that cost more than Brad's car, adjusted his glasses. "This is a hostile work environment, assault and embezzlement. If that girl sues, we lose. If the labor board hears this, we're fined. And the theft, that's a felony." Grandfather closed his eyes. He looked pained, but resolved. "He's delusional. He thinks he's untouchable because of his last name." He turned to me. "Execute the clause?" This brings us to the family court aspect. See, the inheritance wasn't a straight handout. It was a trust, contingent on competency, and as the newly appointed trustee, a surprise grandfather had been saving, I had the power to determine if a beneficiary was acting detrimental to the estate. We drove to the restaurant at 5:00 p.m., just before the dinner rush. Brad saw us walk in, me, grandfather in his wheelchair, and Mr. Henderson holding a thick leather folder. Brad's smug grin dropped. He looked confused. "Grandfather," Brad stammered, rushing over. "What are you doing here? And why is he with you?" He pointed a shaking finger at me. "I fired him yesterday. You didn't fire him, grandfather said, his voice cutting through the noise of the kitchen. You fired the trustee of your trust fund. Brad froze. What? Mr. Henderson stepped forward and handed Brad a packet of papers. This is a formal notice of termination for a cause, embezzlement, creating a hostile work environment, and gross negligence. You are being removed from the premises immediately. You can't do this, Brad screamed, his face turning that familiar shade of purple. I'm the heir. This is my restaurant. It's not, I said, stepping forward. It's the family's restaurant, and you're bankrupting it. I pulled out the final document. This is a restraining order, and this, I pointed to a specific clause, is the amendment to the will due to gross misconduct and criminal activity, your share of the net worth, the stocks, the properties. The future dividends has been placed into a restricted account. You can't touch a dime of the inheritance until you complete a 2-year rehabilitation program and repay the $15,000 you stole from the safe. The silence in the restaurant was heavy. The cooks were peeking out from the kitchen. The servers were watching, eyes wide. This is a joke, Brad whispered. You're lying. Check your bank account, I said coldly. Brad fumbled for his phone. He opened his banking app. I watched his eyes bulge. The company credit card canceled. His stipend paused. He looked up at me. Terror replacing the arrogance. This was instant karma in its purest form. He realized he wasn't the king, he was just a thief who got caught. Security, grandfather said softly. 2 large men in blazers stepped out from the foyer. They took Brad by the arms. He didn't fight. He was too in shock. As they dragged him out the front door, passing the very tables he used to lord over, he looked back at me. I'm family, he pleaded. Then you should have treated us like family, I replied. The fallout was swift and absolute. With Brad gone, the toxicity in the restaurant evaporated overnight. I took over as interim general manager while we searched for a professional replacement. The first thing I did, I called Mia. I apologized on behalf of the family. I offered her job back with a substantial raise and a tuition assistance stipend funded directly from the money we recovered from Brad's embezzlement. She came back, and she's now one of our best shift leads. But you guys want to know what happened to Brad, right? Update. It's been 6 months since the purge. Brad tried to sue us, of course he did. He found some shady strip mall lawyer to file a wrongful termination suit, claiming I entrapped him and that the recordings were illegal. We went to family court for mediation. Brad walked in looking disheveled, wearing a suit that clearly hadn't been dry cleaned in weeks. He demanded $500,000 and reinstatement. Mr. Henderson simply played the tape of him screaming at Mia, then laid out the forensic accounting of the theft. The judge actually laughed. He told Brad's lawyer that if they pursued this, he would refer the case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Brad dropped the suit immediately because he has no access to his trust fund. Brad had to get a real job. And this is the best part, the cherry on top of the karma sundae. My friend texted me a photo last week. Brad is working at a fast food burger joint 3 towns over. He's not a manager. He's not a shift lead. He's working the drive-thru window. The photo showed him handing a bag of fries to a customer, wearing a paper hat, looking absolutely miserable. As for me, the business is thriving, the staff is happy, and I've learned that sometimes you have to scrub the floors to see where the dirt is really hiding. Brad thought he was the golden child, but he forgot the most important rule of the service industry. Don't spit on the people who handle your food or your inheritance.